This lesson is designed to teach them a little bit of vocabulary, give an opportunity and some context for just having mathematical conversations, and to learn a few basic concepts that don't have to do with computing. So you're not at risk of showing them a different way to compute than something they're doing in the classroom. And they may or may not already know these words. If they don't know them and haven't learned them yet, it doesn't hurt anything. We're going to use arrays, which they're already familiar with and have done work with, and we're going to use them to introduce the idea of prime, a square number, and factors of a number. So on this slide, we have 9 blue squares, 16 yellow squares, and 4 of the pink squares, and have the kids play with them to make a square array out of each of these. There's more than one way to make arrays out of the 16, so that may take a little while, so you can skip that if you feel like it's taking too long. But just have them play with them, move them around, and they should be able to move them with their fingers on their screen. And why don't you suggest that they set the background to probably a grid, maybe this one, because it'll help them line the arrays up so they look better, and have them do it so they gain some control and so they're actually engaged in the activity. Now here, there's only basically 2 ways, one row and all of them in the same column, or one column and they're all in the same row. So after they figure that out and make an array out of each individual color, contrast that to the 16 on the previous slide, or the different ways that they could make arrays out of the squares on the other side. Now here we have 12 squares, and have them just see how many different arrays they could make out of 12 squares. And when they finish an array, write out the multiplication problem. If they make a 3 by 4, have them write 3 times 4 equals 12. And 4 by 3, put that too. Tell them they can count that as a different problem, make as many as they can, and write out the multiplication. Now here, we're going to build the vocabulary. So explain to them what prime means, that the only array that you can make has either one row or one column. And then have them look back through the slides and find the prime numbers. Which ones was it only possible to make either one row or one column, and write them down. And then a perfect square number, and you might tell them, sometimes we just call them square numbers. Sometimes we call them perfect squares. I guess all squares are perfect. And explain what that means, that it's possible. It's not the only way, but it's possible to make a square array. And if that's true, we call it a square number. And then have them look back and see which numbers in this lesson are perfect squares, and have them write them down. And then introduce the word factor. They probably have heard the word factor. If not, you can't reinforce it enough, that the number of squares in any row or column of an array is a factor of the total numbers. And so have them go back and get the factors of 12 off their slide and write them down. And then you might want to continue talking to them about just some things that you could figure out based on what you just learned. And here's just an example. If a number is even, you could always make an array with how many rows, because what number is a factor of all even numbers? And this would just give them a way. They know these facts, but they may not know how to express this, and they may not know the vocabulary.